I'm here to help. Learn from the mistakes that I've made. Let's locate your unique voice and bring it to the screen. These are my adventures in cinema, and I hope you enjoy them. Child actors don't have a sense of their own persona. Now, this is something that happens peripheral to the job of acting. It's really unfortunate that our industry creates a sense of an ego, which is outside the real normal ego of the person. It's a sense, it's a persona that is built around the human being that is supposed to for show up on set, do a job, go home, sleep, and do a 9 to 5. An actor's job is to show up, perform, and leave. These are the three things an actor needs to do. But what the industry makes them do is create a whole mechanism of marketing. And that marketing takes over the job of the actor. And unfortunately, a lot of actors start then pandering to the image that has been created for them outside the set, in page 3, in magazines, on glitzy shows, in award shows, and all of the stuff which is completely peripheral to the job of acting. The job of acting is showing up on set and to perform between action and cut. That's it, nothing else. That is the job of acting. Why I love working with children is that this persona doesn't exist. They are not hung up about their stardom. They're not hung up about their lack of stardom in most cases, because obviously the stars are already stars. The stars have a burden to carry, they have a cross to bear, but the guys who are not stars have even a larger cross to bear. And all of this is very confusing on a set. It's not necessary. Children don't have this, so they already start at a huge advantage. A lot of actors have to shed all this, and that's why they go for acting schools and techniques, etc. What are they doing there? They're basically trying to shed all this and just going back to how to be alive in that moment when they're called upon to act. And most acting training is geared towards that, how to be in that moment. But children are already there. Now, one of the techniques that I use, or the only technique that I use with kids, is to fire up their imaginations. And the way to do it, the one problem with kids is their attention. Especially the teens that I've directed, the attention moves from tuck, 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 tuck. It's not disciplined. It's not. So how do you get a child to focus? The way I do it is problem solving. I give them a problem. I ask them a question, right? I tell them that, okay, what you need to do is identify in this scene, all right, where is the conflict? Where is the crisis? Literally in these words. And what do you want? What does she want? This is me directing, let's say, for example, Majid in No Fathers in Kashmir. And every scene we used to do this exercise for them. What does she want? What does he want? Where is the conflict? Understood? You understood? And they have to answer these questions themselves. And then, okay, let's go for the shot. So what are they doing? They're doing the three most important things that actors have to do. One, they are listening to the other person delivering their lines, as if it's the first time that line is coming out of that person's mouth. This is critical. An acting is the job of listening. Back in the day in Shakespeare's plays, for example, the people who used to perform on stage in Shakespeare's day were not professional actors. They were all amateurs. Amateurs in the sense that they didn't earn their money from acting. They were a carpenter or a plumber or a butcher or a whatever, right? That was their day job. And in the evenings, they used to come on stage and perform. So what used to happen? In the daytime, there used to be a kid from the theatre company when Mr. Shakespeare was written the scene. That kid would take that scene, get it copied, because there was no printing press at that time, and he would run around to the butcher, the plumber, the carpenter, whoever, and give him what were called his sides, because there was no time to write the whole play. That person didn't have to have the whole. There was no time to get him the whole play, because Shakespeare was writing. Prolific writer, he was writing every day. And what he's writing is going to be performed that evening. And nobody knows what the story is except for Shakespeare himself. Right? So what you would get as an actor is you would get your sides. If I'm playing Romeo, I would get the sides for Romeo. If I was playing Macbeth, I would get the sides of Macbeth. Which means just my lines and maybe the first line of the next guy who's about to speak. So you know my lines are over and what the first line is. That's it. You don't know who the other guy is. You don't know what his role is. You don't know what the play is about. And you meet for the first time in front of a live audience to perform. Because there's no time to rehearse. Now, this is pure performance. And these performances were electric and they worked. Why? Very simple. Everybody's listening for their cue. And what do we do when we are having a conversation? Two people having a conversation for the first time, we are listening. Somebody's coming over to us, we want to sell our house. The guys come, the brokers come, the potential buyer sitting in front of us. What are we doing? We are listening. What's he going to offer? Our mind is working. Okay, that guy's offered X, but I want Y. How much can I accept? The mind is working. This is performance. This is what the audience wants to see. Right? The audience doesn't want you to see you waiting for a line and then saying, and then delivering something with a great amount of oomph and dialogue. This is not acting. Acting is listening, using your ears and being alive in that moment. So that's the first thing that the kids do. They listen. They listen really, really carefully when you ask them this problem-solving approach. The second thing that they are doing is that they are reacting. So after listening, what do? You react. Because if somebody does something which is not planned, and it's not planned because I don't rehearse it. I haven't rehearsed it. I've just asked them to answer 2-3 basic questions that I've just posed. Then they have to react. They have to perforce. And their reaction is what the camera grabs. That's like, oh my God, what a truthful performance. It's truthful because it is the reaction of the moment. When Majid takes Noor's hand, it's her reaction that you see, I beg your pardon, when Noor takes Majid's hand, it's his reaction that you see. Oh my God, I am from a small town in Kashmir. This is a girl who's come from the UK. And a girl has never touched my hand. That reaction you see on his face. And he goes slightly red. Yeah, that little blush. That is what the camera grabs. Yeah? So that's the second thing that happens. And the third thing that happens is that you get a sense of, and I already alluded to this little earlier, you get a sense of the truth of that moment. Because everything that you're seeing is happening in the moment that it's supposed to happen in. It's not something that has been choreographed. I haven't told the actors that you have to walk like this and go here and do this. And in particular, when I'm working with kids, I organize this crew around the kids. I don't choreograph. I don't first go to the camera guy. And I know a lot of directors do. In fact, I used to do this when I was directing Forest, for instance. I used to do this. I used to first work out the camera moves. Okay, the camera will come like this, and this will go like that, this and that. And then I used to place the actors in the frame. I don't work like that anymore, right? Actually, come to think of it, even back then I used to work in a different way. No, I never worked like that. We did a lot of rehearsals, so that I don't do that anymore. In Forest, what I did is that I rehearsed all the scenes out, so that, in the rehearsals themselves, we could see where the actors were moving, and then I would design my shots accordingly. Now I don't even do that because it's not necessary. Now what I do is when the actors come on set, because you see, the problem with rehearsal is when you rehearse scenes, the problem is that the adrenaline, you want adrenaline. You want the 100 people on the set watching. That gives an actor a completely, and the actor has to be in costume. Just putting on that costume changes a lot of things. Handling props, whether it's a knife or a gun. Imagine, in a rehearsal, you've got a cigarette lighter and you're pretending that it's a gun, right? Your entire energy is going in making that look convincing. But on the set, you will have an actual live armament in your hands. Or not live, but you'll have a fake gun in your hands, but looks and feels exactly like a real one, right? That touch, that tangible, palpable sort of touch changes everything for an actor, everything. So there's no point rehearsing it because the only time you need to rehearse it is when the camera should be rolling. And today with digital technology, and because when I started my film career, it was always 35mm, 16mm. We have to be very careful with the amount of footage that we are spilling. Today, you can film the rehearsals. You don't have to, block that time out. So that guy has that gun in his hand and it's palpable, and then there's the lights are on and the camera is on and the tension is on, and with the tension comes the dopamine, and with the dopamine is the adrenaline, and that is irreplaceable. You cannot have it anywhere else. You cannot create it in a rehearsal. So there's no point rehearsing scenes. So what I do is I let the actors come on set. I tell them, ask the 3 magic questions. What is the scene about? What is the intention of the scene? What is the conflict? What is your desire? And what choices you have to make? Ask these 3 basic questions, and then jump into the scene in your full costume with the props and everything that you're going to handle, and then let's see what happens. So, the crew, lighting, entire setup is designed around the actors, especially when I'm working with kids, because I want them to be completely free. I want to completely free, and if they are getting out of frame and coming back into frame and all that, I don't care. I don't care. It's not important. What is important is the actor needs to be allowed to be in the moment, because that's what the audience is coming to watch. And a lot of the times I've compromised on the visual, the flow of the film, the movement of the camera, and all of these things, particularly when I'm working with kids, and privileging the action of the child more than